Hello, everybody. Sigh. Chelsea were rubbish. Rubbish. Rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. Genuinely, like, one of the worst, man. One of the worst. SKR, I'm tired. I'm tired too, man. I'm tired too. Chelsea lose 2-1 to Brighton. They create a whole lot of nothing. They don't give up a whole lot the other way either, to be fair. But this was just turgid. Like, and you knew early round FA Cup game, it was always going to be like this. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It was always going to be like this. It was always going to be like this. So Chelsea play like a mostly full strength lineup. Malagusto is horrific. Like let's just whatever. Let's just get into the stats now and then we'll complain. Chelsea have 60% of the ball. They take 7 shots of below average quality. None of them are even particularly good chances. None of them are even particularly good chances. Like even this Palmer one, this is going to get severely downgraded. Like he has had to slide tackle it in the air. It's going to get severely downgraded. And other than that, it's like shot from an awful angle, shot from an awful angle, shot from distance, shot from distance, shot from an awful angle that's a header that I don't know why Nkunku just didn't shoot on his left foot. And like it's not like there was a tremendous amount of like other chances that were way better than this. Like it's not like those chances were there and were way better. Like they got into the box a tremendous amount of times or anything like that. Like 23 box touches is like pretty far below Chelsea's average. And to turn 23 box touches into 7 shots is rubbish. On the flip side, they give up 6 shots of quite high quality comparatively. The 2 goals are both very good chances. The rest of them are kind of whatever, but those 2 are quite good chances. And at no point did Chelsea feel dangerous in this game. At no point did anyone feel, when Chelsea went down 2-1, be honest in the chat, at any point did Chelsea feel like they were going to equalize? Because at no point did, other than like a 5-minute period at like, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes at like minute 67, where they get like a pretty good box entry, cutback gets blocked, and then they end up with like another box entry, and then the Enzo shot goes over, like the left-footed Enzo Fernandez chance. Like that stretch of 2 minutes, I was like, all right, this is pretty good, maybe. And then immediately, no. I don't think we had a shot on target after the Brighton goal because Enzo's on target. But I don't care about shots. I care about shots on target in that they're generally higher quality shots. But like Chelsea just did nothing. On the team side, I'm not even pulling the tactics board up because it's actually not even worth it. On the team side, Sanchez sucks. He's just not good. Like between the 1v1 and the header, he should save one of them. Neither of them are such good finishes that I'm like, oh my God, he could never. Between the 1v1 and the header, he should save one of them. He makes the wrong choice with the 1v1. It's a bouncing ball, and he comes out, but doesn't make himself big. He makes himself small, and he just gets dinked. And it's like, it's going away from goal. Like, if you just chill a little bit, like, he probably doesn't score. Gusto is horrific. Like, he's just not a good footballer. I tweeted something about Malagusto lost the most goals of the match. Yeah, because he sucks at soccer. I tweeted about like Poch must be the fullback whisperer because he made Gusto look like a competent fullback. Bro, he's actually awful at everything. Constantly turns the ball over without creating anything of value. He's not a good passer. He doesn't beat people on the dribble. He cannot defend. The goal is entirely his fault because the ball is like bouncing around on the ground and he starts moving up the pitch while Mitoma just stands wide open exactly where the right back is supposed to be. Like, he's just not good. I just wouldn't play him. I would play Josh ahead of him every single game for the rest of time. I would, if you can con someone into paying you profit for him this summer, I would move him so fast and not think twice about it. He is not a useful player. Not the way Chelsea are playing. If he was holding width high and wide on the right and he had to do as little defending as possible, maybe. But he's not good. He can't defend at all, even a little bit. So, like, he's not useful. He's not useful. Mitoma had him on toast. On toast. I thought Tosin and Trev did not have good games. I thought they were very poor in possession. I thought they were very poor in possession. Just like absolutely zero ability to break lines with their passing. I thought it was just give the ball to Caicedo and let Brighton drop the line. And Chelsea did not play fast at all in this game. And like, we have seen pretty consistently, like, Brighton play a high line. Chelsea's best moments were basically just kicking it over their head. And, like, Chelsea didn't play anything direct in behind, really, at all. Cucurella, I don't know. He's fine. Can our wingers ever dribble past anyone? Oh, it's going to come to them. Like I said, it was okay. I thought he was, like, not great in possession. Like, he moved the ball forward at a solid rate, but it was a lot of like sit on the edge of the final third and circulate stuff. And Chelsea were okay in those moments. And he does a lot of like keep stuff ticking over stuff without being like really dynamic himself. And like, you look at the transitions he has to defend on his own. Like, he gets barbecued by Reuter on like Reuter like flicks it over his head. And like, that's true. But he is just a man on his own all the time. Even when Enzo comes on. And he looks pretty tired. Dewsbury Hall, not at the level. There's nothing else to say. Sancho and Neto, not at the level. There's nothing else to say. They don't create shots in any particular volume. They don't take good shots in any particular volume. Like, you cannot have two wingers that are going to cost you a combined £80 million and make a combined £300,000 a week or £250,000 a week against Brighton playing Tariq Lamptey, who, while talented, is genuinely dog shit defensively. Like, he cannot defend even a little bit. And Joel Veltman, who is on a yellow card for the whole game, is a center back and is also awful. And these two players combined for one shot and 0.03 XG and combined to create another two shots for like 0.15 XG. Like, the two of them together were less than 0.2 XG created. Like, that cannot happen. That cannot happen. You cannot get that level of production out of your wingers. And, like, for the many faults of Nani Madueke comes on and immediately is making runs in behind, is immediately making runs to the back post. Like, he's just way better than both of those guys. And was he not good when he came on? Correct. He was not very good when he came on, and he was still better than both of them. Tyreek George, also not very good when he came on, still better than both of them. So, like, what are we doing here if this is the winger group you have? I thought Palmer was not very good again. And I think the thing that's really starting to bother me with Palmer is every single time he gets touched, he just throws hands and says, it's a foul, it's a foul, it's a foul. Like, if you are the guy, and again, he's 22. It's his second season of being a consistent starter. I get it. But if you're going to be the guy, you have to grab teammates by the scruff of the neck and drag them with you sometimes. Like, you cannot just throw hands every time you get touched for a foul. You cannot hit a pass behind Nkunku that was legitimately your fault and then blame Nkunku for it. Palmer is also, yeah, Comstar, as you say, Palmer is coming super deep. Um, Palmer is coming super deep all the time. And I get it because it's not exactly like the ball's moving forward to him. So many times, Tosin and Chaloba and Caicedo and Gusto and Cucurella, the back five, because Chelsea built 2-3 today or 4-1, however you want to call it, same way they built against Palace. They had so little ability to hit the front line and build through them. Like it didn't happen because they're terrified of getting turned over in transition because Enzo Maresca is a sicko who just the only thing he cares about is defensive transitions instead of creating anything. The ball would go wide to Neto. Neto would have like a 2v2, and instead of Gusto breaking the line to underlap and slip or overlap, Gusto would just sit in the half space. Gusto is genuinely the least useful player on the pitch sitting in the half space. He can't cross the ball. He can do cutbacks and stuff, but he's not like a good crosser. He's also not going to defend transitions for you, so there's no point in him being in the half space. You might as well use him as the number that's going to break the line or overlap. Like it's just not useful. It's just not useful. And so Palmer has to come deep to get the ball because like the ball's not getting to him because nobody else wants to take a risk to move the ball forward. And Nkunku is useless. I have no interest in seeing him play striker ever again because there was a stretch. So I missed the first 10 minutes. I missed the first 2 goals because I was at work. I turn my TV on, and literally the first possession I see is Christopher Nkunku splitting the center backs to get the ball as the striker. The striker, the player who goes and stands in the box to score goals, is splitting the center backs. To pick up the ball. Like, what are we doing here? Maresca is incredibly scared of defensive transitions until he decides to go man to man and press the whole way up the pitch. We actually do not have enough hours in the day to talk about the defensive stuff because the defensive stuff is such a gong show. We don't have enough hours in the day. And that's the whole game. These guys weren't good. Chelsea played awful. The ideas were bad. Brighton aren't even good. They're like actually not that good. They defend really dumbly. They have some good players that I like. I like Baliba. I like Matoma. I like Minte. But like they had no. All you have to do is watch the 5 minutes where Chelsea just absolutely rip them in the second half, and watch how poorly. So all Brighton did was to manage Chelsea putting 5 players on the last line. Was they had Minte track as a wingback. That's it. That's the whole thing. And Minte, I don't know if you've watched him, not a great defender. Him and Veltman had no ability to handle Sancho, Cucurella, and Enzo Fernandez in the space. They couldn't do it. And Chelsea would go over to Neto on the other side to do 15 step overs and then hit a cross off the first guy. Like, what are we doing here? So this was awful. Like, genuinely rubbish game. Now, I have like 2 things that I'm like, well, I don't know. Levi didn't play. That's a huge upgrade in your build-up play, for sure. I think Jorgensen will come back into the team. Reese was out. We don't know with what yet. They said a knock. We don't know if knock is muscular. We don't know if knock is a kick. We don't know what. Nor do I think he would play this game anyways. But this is part of the problem, right? Like, I understand it's the only game you play this week, so you're like, we can go pretty full strength. Like, I would not have played Palmer. I would not have played Caicedo. I would have started Josh. I would have gone with Tyreek to start, and I probably would have started Shimbahuka and Nkunku behind him. Because there's no winning here. Even if you play a strong team, and you win, nobody cares. If you play a strong team and you lose, it's a problem. If you play a rotated team with some kids and win, it's a big deal. It's a big mood lifter. And if you lose, nobody cares. Like, the incentive structures here are like, you've just taken on all the risk for no reason. And so now you're out of the cup. You're out of both cups. You have the league and conference league the rest of the way. Neto, I thought, tore his Achilles the way he went down and then finished the game somehow. But like you play Brighton next week, and it's like you better hope Jackson or Guiu are back, because if they're not, like great, Moore and Kunku up front, that'll go well. I'm sure that'll be really really fun. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I don't think, to be perfectly clear, I don't think this will go as poorly in the league, because I don't think Chelsea are as bad as they played today. But I don't know, man. Got pelters on Reddit for saying we should play Mahook up front instead of an attacking mid. Thought Tyreek was pretty good. Yeah, Tyreek was. I don't think he was very good. I thought he was fine. Like kid fine though. So like kid fine where like you're not actually playing well. You know what I mean? Have we ever played well with Nkunku as a 9? Like some of the Conference League games I thought were okay with him as a 9. Janelle McNeely is more ready than Shim. Yeah, probably. Probably. But I don't think McNeely is ever going to play for the first team. So, like, you're, from a long-term perspective, you're probably better off giving Shim this game. But, like, I don't understand no Ish. I don't understand no Josh today. Yeah. Did you talk about Brighton's first 2 shots being goals? We were still terrible. Well, yeah, I did speak about Sanchez being very poor on both of them. Is the lack of runs in behind a tactical choice, or can these players just not carry out instructions? It doesn't seem so complicated. Well, so you have to think about like the profiles, right? Like Neto has never been a run behind winger. He is a get it to feet and run at people winger. Sancho's the same, because both of them are actually not that fast. They're quick, but they're not fast. Noni does run in behind, and he's pretty good at it. Jackson, very good running in behind, and pretty good at it. Mudryk, also like not bad at running in behind because he's very fast. Who's the other winger? Tyreek, not so much a run in behind guy because at youth level it's just like get it to my feet and let me cook. And I'm sure I'm missing a winger. And like Nkunku is a run behind guy. This is what I don't understand. If you go watch Nkunku play Bundesliga, he's playing either up front on his own or playing up front with a bigger guy, and all he does is run behind all the time. So like I watch, and to be fair, he made like not 0 runs in behind, but not nearly enough. I'm just like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. The sporting director has built a counter-attacking team and hired a possession-based manager. I don't even think that's true. I don't necessarily think. I don't think these players have to play counter-attacking football. I think there would be benefits in some ways to defending deeper. Mostly the fact that your players suck at defending. But I don't think you have to. But I think like you play this weekend and all these players, like I would have loved, again, I said this before we played whoever we lost to in, who did we beat in the last round of the Cup? Who did we beat in the last round of the Cup? Morecambe on the 9th or something like that? Yeah, before we played Morecambe and ahead of Bournemouth, like I said, what I would have done as a coach is from the Palace game, I would have taken in Palmer and Caicedo and like a few of the like Levi, Reese, like a bunch of the starting guys. I would have said, go take 4 days off. Go decompress. You're not going to play against Morecambe. Don't worry about training. Decompress. Come back. And then we'll come back refreshed. And they didn't do that. So now I would have done it this weekend. I would have said, you're not going to play against this Brighton game, but you are going to come back for the Brighton game. Go away on vacation. Like we played Monday. Go away on vacation Tuesday through Friday. Come back Saturday morning for this game to come watch this game. And then we go again. And then we go again for the Brighton game of the league. And like, okay, if we lose, we lose. But at least those guys come back refreshed. Because here's what's going to happen now. We play Friday, Saturday, Tuesday. And then you have an international break. Moises Caicedo is going to fly across the world, the globe. Him and Enzo are going to fly across the globe. Come back exhausted. Have a squeaky one against Leicester somehow. then you play Arsenal, and then you play Spurs, and then you play Brentford, and all in here you're playing Conference League games at the same time. And now, because Cassidy is gone, and because João Felix is gone, and because you've thinned your squad out, you now don't have players to play the Conference League games. You can't do B team anymore. You don't have enough players. So like you look at B team and it's like, okay, one of the goalkeepers plays. One of the goalkeepers plays. Yes, you're right. Sorry, the break is after Arsenal. It's not after Southampton. You play one of the goalkeepers. You play Malagusto. You have a third or a fourth center back when Barishile comes back. But like, who's playing in midfield? Caicedo and Enzo are going to have to play. One of them is going to have to play every single Conference League game. And who's playing up front? Like, you now have a situation where, like, guys are going to have to actually play the Conference League games if you want to win the Conference League. And Chelsea should really want to win the Conference League, because if Chelsea win the Conference League, it guarantees that England gets 5 Champions League spots. So it becomes hugely important for you to win the Conference League. Hugely important. And now you have a situation where you're going to have to play your starters both games, every week. And, like, they look tired now. Wait till they're playing, like, Bruges away midweek before coming back to play Arsenal at the Emirates. Like, good luck. Let's see how it goes, man. I'm just slumped. Today sucked. That was so bad. It was so bad. And we all knew it was going to be bad. This is the worst thing. Was anyone looking forward to this game? Because I wasn't. Fiorentina are low-key top side as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess, sure. They're like the same level as Brighton, probably. And we lost that game, so. This team has no coherent style. Don't give the sporting director so much credit. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not. I mean, the team doesn't have a second striker. What style are we talking about? Comster one, does 4 days of rest really make that much of a difference? I think. So let me put it this way. Not the same, but this is my experience. When I played in college and when I coached college ball and like coached semi-pro, when you are in the grind of like you're playing twice a week and you're training every day and travel and train and travel and train and play and then sometimes you lose and maybe it's very, very difficult to like get out of that cycle. And when you have a chance for like, let's take a couple days off, I don't have to train, I don't have to think about it, I don't have to watch film, I don't have to go to the gym, like just take 3-4 days, sit, sleep, relax, hang out with my family. Like, those things can be really big boosts. Really big boosts. Like we used to do in college, in Canada in college, you play 2 games a weekend. You play Saturday and you play Sunday. And then we would train every day during the week. Some teams would do 1 day off or 2 days off. We would do no days off. The only 2 days off we would get the whole season were Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving was always a bye week. There was no game the Thanksgiving weekend. So we would train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the Saturday, Sunday of Thanksgiving we would have off, or the Sunday, Monday if we had to play the Saturday, which sometimes you did. And you'd have the Sunday, Monday off. And the Tuesday you'd come back, and it was like guys who had torn ACLs would feel fresh. Like, it's just that little break when you're totally in the grind, it can be a big, big, big help. So yeah, I think it actually really does make a big difference for guys. And that's why, like, I look at the international breaks and I'm like, God, I hope like Palmer and Caicedo and Enzo never do. They never pull out. I hope they find a way to like, no, we're not going, sorry. And it's not going to happen. Thought it was a low pressure match. Might get to see something new. I was wrong. I agree. Like, these are games where you're playing a solid team, but if you lose, it doesn't matter. Like, this is 100% a game where you should try stuff to see what you can learn, and like maybe try stuff to learn means like playing kids. Maybe it means a shape change. Maybe it means you try something different defensively. I don't know. And especially when you play Brighton again next week, it's like especially worthwhile to try something different. Because let's say you try something different and it works really well. Like, well, now they're like, oh, well, what are they going to do next week? And if you try something and it doesn't work, well, like, now you're not going to try it next week when you might have. So, yeah, I think you should be trying things in games like this. Do I think Maresca is the right man for us, or is it a much more hierarchical issue? Does any manager overcome the guys above them? I mean, do I think he's the right man for us? I mean, I just think the problems are so much bigger than the manager. I don't think he's like, I would say as a hire, I was like a 5 out of 10 on it. I was like, okay, like his Leicester team played a style that I think is probably better for these players. I think that he had some like pretty big red flags in terms of style, like the man-to-man pressing thing. Leicester weren't great on set pieces, but he was hiring a set piece coach. The no subs, like those were some things that I really flagged up. And he was like pretty good for the first 40% of the season at all of those things. And I think before Christmas I had him at like a 6.5, something like that. And I've probably downgraded him to a 6 or a 5.5 now. Because I don't think Chelsea have been amazing. I think they've merely played to their talent vaguely over the season. I would say actually lately they've been playing quite a bit below their talent. But I think for the season they're the fourth best team, and they've played vaguely. They're in fourth. They've played vaguely akin to the fourth best team, and I think that's reasonable. But in terms of the long term, I mean, him trending in the wrong direction this season is quite a big red flag for me. I think I'm going to do a video at the end of the season eventually showing a matrix of what are the things I'm evaluating a manager on. And one of those criterion is ability to learn or ability to grow or ability to evolve, those sorts of things. Where, for example, Ruben Amorim, I thought was very good in Portugal, but I had a lot of questions about how is this going to translate to England, where he is not going to have the talent advantage that Sporting do, and the big games in England look very different than the big games in Portugal. And I was very curious how quickly he was going to learn things, and so far he has not learned very quickly. He has made many decisions that I think are very bizarre. And it's like, that's a stroke against him. Whereas I thought someone like Arne Slot has been an excellent learner in terms of seeing what's going on, adapting, tweaking, constantly changing, growing every year. Like somebody who works for a Champions League team told me that Arne Slot used to call him in the summer to learn things about analytics because he just wanted to learn in the off season. He wanted to grow as a manager. That's a huge green flag for me. So I look at Maresca and I'm like, you've gotten more dogmatic as the season's gone on, and the numbers have declined as a result of that, and you're playing worse and you're winning less. I don't know how much you're learning there, boss. So I'm kind of curious about that one. So in the long term, is he the right man for us? I don't know. But I also don't think I also don't think there's like somebody obvious. I don't think there's somebody obviously sitting there that I'm like, this is the best. The best, like we should get this guy instead. Because let's say, I think if Chelsea comes sixth, I think Maresca will be fired. I don't think he will survive. Because if he survives and Chelsea don't achieve their goals for the season, and as much as they say, no, it was always Champions League in the second season, as much as they say that, they're full of shit. If they don't make Champions League, it's going to be a big problem. Whether that's fourth or fifth or whatever. Like, if they don't make Champions League, I think there will be legitimate problems from ownership with the people running the club. That is Winstanley and Stewart. So let's say they come sixth, which I think, again, as bad as today was, I still think is moderately unlikely. And they fire Maresca. Who do they go get? Like, do you go back to Kieran McKenna, who I think has done a pretty good job with a very under-talented Ipswich team? Maybe. Do you, like, who is the other one? Thomas Frank. Do you go get Thomas Frank now? Maybe. But does Thomas Frank do a better job with this team? Like, my guess is he chooses to defend deeper because I think he looks at these players and is like, well, I definitely can't press. Maybe. Maybe he does. I think Thomas Frank is a good coach, but I don't know if he's any better than Maresca. So I don't know. I don't think there is an obvious one. Who would I have picked as a realistic choice? Well, Thomas Frank was the other number one candidate. So my guess is they would go back to that well and hire him. But I think there's a chance like Spurs hire Thomas Frank this summer if they sack Postecoglou, which I think they're probably not going to do, but we'll see. It feels like Maresca's never going to be courageous for the rotations. He had his chance in December as well. It's going to keep compounding. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've talked enough about subs and rotations. Also, again, you want to talk about another thing today. Chelsea make 3 subs. Cheers. Cheers. A different manager just gives us a remixed version of the same stuff. Squad doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think the squad doesn't work. Like, I think there is talent here. So much of this whole BS would have just been solved if you recall Andre Santos. He would give you so much punch in midfield to really, like, speed things up. And he's so good at arriving in the box and just scoring, like, just getting in the box and stuff falling to him. I think it would have made a big difference. But I have zero faith in this recruitment apparatus to go get better players. Like, if this was if they had this summer, they signed 3 attackers, and the 3 attackers they signed were Pedro Neto, Jadon Sancho, and João Felix for a combined 130 million and a combined 400,000 pounds in wages. What are we doing here? There's no point. There's no point in hoping for better if that is what they're doing. Because, again, you want to talk about money problems. Like, Chelsea, it's February 8th. Chelsea still don't have a shirt sponsor. That's a 50 million hole in the budget. How do you think that's going to get filled? Who's the player that's going to get sold to fill it? Is it Jackson? Is it Palmer? Is it one of the center backs? Like, is it Levi? I don't know. Midfielder, second choice striker, tale as old as time. Absolutely. Midfield is so light, we'd probably need 5 in the squad if we get Champions League based on Lavia not existing. Yeah, I mean, I would totally sell Lavia this summer, but you're going to take a loss on him. So what are you going to do? Like, in an ideal world, if Lavia was fit, I think you could run Caicedo, Enzo, Lavia, Andre Santos, and that's your midfield 4, and you manage both competitions. Totally, no problem. I think you could do it. But Lavia's not fit, which means that 4 is going to be 3 all the time. So you probably do need a 5th. Brian Smith, I think they're going to sell Santos. Chelsea have said pretty consistently that they're not going to. And if they were going to, they could have already. I think this got reported at the time, but Chelsea rejected a pretty sizable bid from PSG last summer. It would have filled all of the financial holes. So I think if they were going to sell, they would have sold already. But regardless, whether it's him or Ugochukwu or whatever you do, maybe it's Ugochukwu. I think he's useful. Actually, perfect timing. Let me move this over here so I don't leak all my DMs. Bad Rabbits asked me a really good, really nuanced question. He DM'd me on Twitter. Actually, I don't have any other DMs in here, but I don't want to dox you, Bad Rabbits, so I'll just read it. So Bad Rabbits shot me a message and said, "This is the perfect chance," because we were talking about Ugochukwu. So let me pull up Big Les. Let me pull up McClockbot so we can see the radars. And I'm gonna open up multiple McClockbots while I do it. So basically what Bad Rabbits asked me was, me and Seb have totally opposite opinions of Lesley Ugochukwu. Okay? And he's like, I don't want you to defend your opinion versus Seb's or say why you're right and he's wrong. He goes, but I want to know how the eye test and data test are so different, and like how you weight those things. And there were a couple other nuanced part of it that we'll get into. So if you want to talk about someone like Ugochukwu, right, let's look at when Chelsea bought him. So Chelsea bought him in 2022. He was playing for Rennes. And what we saw from him at Rennes was not very good. He was a midfield player who kind of carried water. Didn't really give the ball away. And had a pretty sizable defensive profile. Right? So you look at this and you're like 19. It's very funny that his face is behind the lettering. 19, not a huge minute sample. Pretty big ball winning numbers. Keeps the ball, doesn't really ever give it away. But he also doesn't move the ball forward at all. So when I looked at this at the time, I was like, well, I mean, for a 19-year-old, sure. But if you think about the context of Ugochukwu's career, right? Rennes are not a super strong team. And they're high in the table, but like they're not good. You know what I mean? Like they're not nearly as good as the best teams in France. And so for him, like you're not playing packed blocks every week. Like teams are not parking the bus against Rennes the way they are against PSG. So you go, okay, but like clearly there's not much of an ability for him to pass. Sure, I'll take a flyer. Chelsea paid a not flyer fee for him. They paid almost 30 million euros for him. Like you are expecting way more than like wins the ball a little bit. Like, for example, there's a player named Owen Jenne who's been kind of like bounced up and down between Liga and Ligue 2, who basically profiles exactly like this. He's like a 4 progressive pass a game guy. He's like a 4 ball wins a game guy. Huge percentage of dribblers tackled. Doesn't foul as much as a Ugochukwu. Doesn't really turn it over much. Doesn't really do much else. He's like total pure ball winning guy. He's going to an MLS team for less than €1 million, and he's a year older than a Ugochukwu. So, from a stats perspective, it's like, okay, I just don't see anything here. And so when you look at the minutes he's played since then, like here's his Southampton one, it's lots of tackles. It's not a lot of passing the ball forward, and there's more dribbling. There's less turnovers, all that sort of stuff. Whatever. The thing you get to is like he's played now something like 2,500 pro minutes. He tackles people lots, and he doesn't really move the ball forward. And to me, that adds up to a profile that is not particularly useful at Chelsea. Ball winning is important. Ball winning is legitimately important. But if you just win the ball and you can't move it, it's not helpful. So like take Caicedo for example. Like if I was to go compare to Caicedo, one of the things that I think has made Caicedo much more useful this season in comparison to past seasons is that he has become a very accomplished passer in comparison to when he started. And you're going to look and be like, well, his progressive passes are down, Kieran. But his passes into the final third are way up. And so one thing that I would be really mindful of is like, remember with Brighton, it's a lot of pattern play. So like there's a lot of like bounce Caicedo, play the pass you're supposed to play. And I think he has gotten much, 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 much better. So I look at it, I'm like, okay, he wins the ball as a tackler. And I really want to focus on as a tackler. But he doesn't really move it forward that much. So that's one half of it. And we're just going to talk about the DM stuff for now. And then the second half of it is when you watch, and so when Bad Rabbits asks, like, when it comes to evaluating a player, how much weight do you put on the opinions of someone who has worked with a player? We'll put to that. What are they more likely to see that you just in the data might not? And what do you think the data is better at demonstrating that someone too close to a player might see? So, like, I think one thing to be really hammer home on is like there are definitely things that you don't see in the data, especially public event data. So like for example, really low interceptions, but like pretty good interceptions this year in France. And so it's like, okay, what is he actually good at cutting out passing lanes? Is he not good at cutting out passing lanes? I don't know. And then you watch, and as Shazé says, his lack of awareness of what happens behind him is massively worrying. I think Ugochukwu is very bad at screening passing lanes because you can see modest or low interception numbers in the Premier League, which again, the Premier League is a much more pressy league than France is. I didn't watch Rennes a tremendous amount, but I would bet you they defended way deeper than Southampton do. Way deeper than Southampton do. So it's much easier to rack up interceptions in a block than it is when you're pressing. And then you watch and you see, okay, like he's not good at screening passing lanes. The second half of this is like, how much do I put value in like people who've worked with players? And that I put a tremendous amount of value in. But it's less this, right? Like, so there's two parts of this. One is like, let's say somebody calls you and you've worked with a player. I've had this happen, for example, a player I worked with was in an MLS draft, and somebody from a team was like, hey, what do you think of this player? You have to be brutally honest about their strengths and weaknesses for you, right? Like, because people they're not going to call you again and say, what do you think of this player? If you lie, and they're like, this player's great. And he's always on time to training, and he never forgets his boots on the bus. And then they are never on time to training, and they forget their boots at the hotel. Like, they're never going to trust you again. So you have to be very, very transparent about those things. And when there are people who are transparent, super valuable. And I'm not saying that Seb is not, so I don't know. But I think getting, like, to know stuff about a player from people who have worked with them is huge. I think one of the things you have to be really mindful of is the level. So, for example, Seb coached the reserve team of a Championnat National team. So he coached the reserve team of a third division team. So really talented players in there. Like, so you, again, go to his timeline and go look at all the players who've turned out very, very good. But, like, the best player at that level is going to stand out way differently than having to go up a level. Like, there are players, the things that are being asked of them are just totally different. And I think sometimes when we work with players, in an environment where they're expected to be the best player versus an environment where Lesley Ugochukwu is never going to be expected to be the best player on the pitch in a Premier League game. It will never happen. He's just not that level player. He's going to be much more expected to like win the ball, pass it forward, don't turn it over, maybe create some stuff. And we're going to talk about the DM versus 8 thing. And those asks are totally different. So like if he's the best player on the field, maybe you're going to focus so much on like he can do this, he can do this, he can do this. And you're not going to focus on he can't do this. And I think in the Premier League, the level is so high that games very often default to what can't you do instead of what can you do. Where Marc Cucurella is a totally solid player. Career pro, takes it seriously, reasonable technical ability, quite fit, he's not slow, he's not weak. His movement off the ball is pretty good. Dude cannot pass the ball forward. He cannot. And you watch today, Brighton boil the game down to, okay, Marc Cucurella, you're going to get the ball on the sideline with difficult passes to play forward and interior, and he can't do it, and that's the game. And I think when we talk about Ugochukwu, he can't screen. He just can't screen. So then you get to the second conversation, which is about is he a DM or is he an 8? And like a lot of people are like, he's an 8. Look at all the things he does. And this fits into like the Carney conversation. This fits in like the Carney conversation where the second half of Bad Rabbit's question is what are people, like eye test people or people who work with people more likely to see that someone in the data might not, is like, you tell me Carney's an 8 and I say I've seen nothing in his game to suggest he can do that in the data. The same thing with Carney. There's nothing in Carney's data that suggests he should be a productive attacking player. However, we're talking about guys with really small minutes totals. And the fewer minutes there are for a player, i.e. the younger there are, the less stable the data is on what they are. And this is why one of the things I've always found somewhat dissonant about this ownership group and their recruitment style is like, we want to be data driven, but we also want to sign young and up and coming players. Those two things don't fit together. Because if you tell me they use data to sign Kendry Pais, I'm like, yeah, dude, what? What data did you have? Go look at Kendry Pais' data when we signed him. He'd played 300 minutes in Ecuador. He played 300, but you have no data on him. You have none. And youth data is notoriously weird. I tweeted today about, so Ibrahim Rabbi, I think that's how you say his name, scored 2 goals for the U18s against Leicester, 3-win. One of them was delightful. And he's 2 years younger than Kendry Pais. And I tweeted, like, if you took Kendry Pais and said next season he's going to go on loan to Independiente del Valle, and you remove all the like adaptation, everything, like pretend he's a kid who grew up in Ecuador, how many goals and assists would he have in the Ecuadorian League and Copa Sud and Copa Lib? And it's like, I don't know. I have no idea. And the same way, we have no idea how Kendry is going to translate to Strasbourg or to Chelsea or to whatever. Like, he gets on the field for Ecuador and can hang, which is a big positive. But we don't know. And the error bars are huge. So that I think is an important thing to consider. That like the lower minutes you go, the much more that scouting is going to be reliable. But really, buying youth players is just gambling. You're just getting more dice rolls, which is why, like, if the Lesley deal had happened for 10 million or 12 million, I'd be way more into it. I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. It's the same way, like, I look at Datro Fofana. Datro Fofana hasn't really worked out. Chelsea paid 10 million euros. Useful player, probably could play at Premier League level. Like, strikers who can play at Premier League level are $25 million players. And you brought him in. He He played a little bit under Graham Potter. He got a loan. The loans didn't go so well. He goes to Turkey. He tears his quad. His season's over. You can probably get him a championship loan next year, or you can probably sell him for profit this summer. I don't know. Let's see. Like, he can probably hang, but you paid $10 million, so it's very easy for you to recoup your money. Same thing with Angelo. Angelo was 12. Andre Santos was 12. Like, it's the ones like Carney is 20. Even Cassidy was 15, and I showed you nothing, and you got 15 back for him. Like, Carney was 20. David Washington was 20. Like, these get way harder to do. Lesley Ugochukwu was 30. Lavia was 55. Like, these deals get way harder to get out of. So I hope that doesn't really answer all the data versus eye test stuff, but I also feel like I should say, like, I don't think Leslie's bad. I just don't think there's a world where Lesley is a starter for Chelsea. I just don't think he can reach that level, but I think he could be a useful squad player. I just didn't like the fee. That was the main Lesley thing. Somebody let me know when we have Maresca quotes as well, so I can go get mad again. But I don't know, it is fun to think about, like, those league translation points, though. And it's funny to me because one of the things we've seen, if you go look at his Ren data, if you look at Liga and you say what stats from Liga translate, tackles is like the number one thing. Like, if you're a good ball winner, it translates really well. Like, if you watch Decore on Palace, that guy was a nasty ball winner in France, but he was also a nasty forward passer, and the ball winning has stayed, and the forward passing is now about league average, which is pretty funny, I think. You're making me nervous about Estevao. I think Estevao is going to be pretty good. He's, like, so far an outlier in terms of I actually don't even know if his data is going to be here anymore, because FBref got rid of all their they got rid of a bunch of their data, so it's just not there anymore. But Estevao is, like, so far an outlier for his age cohort as an attacker. Like, we just have no idea what he's going to be. Ibrahim Rabbi video. No, never. Not until he was, like, playing for the first team. So 3 years. My rough plan, by the way, just, like, whatever. And if there's players you really want, we can talk about it. My rough plan for the off season, like, when the year is done. So I'm going to be in England for the last day of the season. So I'll probably record something there for the last game and the Conference League final. And then in June, I'm going to do a video on Andre Santos. And then I'm going to do a video on Estevao. And I'm going to do a video on Kendry. Because those, I think, are, like, the 3 kids that might come in. I think Kendry will end up going to Strasbourg. But we'll talk about it. I'll do some, like, guesstimated projections for the season. I'm not going to do one on Penders because he's not going to play. There is a 0% chance he plays for Chelsea in any meaningful way next season. And then it'll be July, and it'll be transfer season, and then transfer stuff will come, and we'll see what happens across the board. I'll complain more, probably. But those are the 3 that I'm planning on doing, unless something significantly changes. But we'll see. Any way to quantify or look out for physical performance in data or eye test? Yeah, I think most people are chatting shit with physical stuff. Because, 1, the data is not publicly available ever. It's not there. You need special data access to get, like, high quality, like, sprints, like high intensity sprints and all this stuff. Like, that's not publicly available. You need to find it. And then I think when you're watching, like, I do think you can see fatigue and you can see, like, pace. And I do think it is more useful to evaluate by eye. But like there are multiple, like this is not these ads are tripping me out. Get out of here. The There are lots of people who use FIFA data or Football Manager data for physicals. Like that's a real thing that people do as a way to have like a reasonably objective source of physical talent. Because the Football Manager and the FIFA ratings are literally just a bunch of people watch the player and they're like, no, he's not 90 pace, he's 88 pace. And that is a real thing that people do, is they build Football Manager and FIFA Ultimate Team physicals into their databases. That is a totally a thing that teams and data consultancies do. Because as much as like, let's say you had a 40-yard dash, which like for the non-North Americans, like that's a test you do in a combine to play sports. You run 40 yards and they time you. Like a 40-yard dash is a useful thing, but like how often in soccer do you sprint 40 yards flat out? Like almost never. Like it's much more 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards. And so it's a whole thing. Guiu is like 50 pace on FIFA. I think Guiu is pretty slow. So like I think he's faster than 50 pace, but yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot to balance there. All right, is Maresca here yet? Do we have Maresca quotes? And then we'll wrap it up because I have stuff to do. Enzo is here. And let's see. I think we need to play some games without players to realize how important they are. Off the ball, his pressing is very good. On the ball, he's a threat. We start very good. Control credentials. Second half, more or less, happen the same. If there's something good after a defeat, is now we can focus the Premier League and Conference. I agree with the first half of this quote. Sometimes we need to play games without Jackson to know how important he is. Second half of this quote is waffle. I thought we were pretty bad. Not holding leads. For sure, we need to learn how to win games 1-0. No doubt. Same way. We were losing 1-0. And then we win 2-1. James' absence. It was planned. He is okay. He's training. Okay, so James is fine. I don't think we miss Zhao. Zhao is happy there. We are happy. Zhao is happy there. He started today, by the way, which I wonder if he scored. Did he score? Tamori, red card. Fun. He started. He took 5 shots for a lot of XG. Sounds like João Felix. Bad Rabbits, yeah, I remember someone talking about how Sports Interactive had the biggest amateur scouting network in the sport. Some of them are not amateurs. I think the biggest hurdle to somebody like trying to replace SI and Football Manager is that like Football Manager has 30,000 scouts for the whole game. 30,000 scouts. Like, it's very hard to build that up. And this is why the women's game has taken so long to get up, because like that network of people just doesn't exist on the women's side. And the biggest problem is like if the players are all rated wrong, like nobody will like the game. AB Poch is skin in the game. He's been around the block for years. Maresca's been an academy coach and an assistant. Shouldn't be a surprise. Poch has more know-how. I mean, I think Maresca is doing largely the same level job that Poch is. Like, it's basically the same team. And Chelsea have more points than they did under Poch in the same games. So, and at the same point in the season. So, I don't know. I think it's about the same. I think some players are better, some players are worse. Like, Nani Madueke is way better this year than he was last year. FA Cup. It's for sure a shame, no doubt difficult competition, for sure a big shame for us, blah, blah, blah. What is a good season now? For me, a good season is seeing the team improving game after game, go through bad moments, difficulty. It is the only way this club can compete for something important. We can now be focused on the Premier League and Conference and finish in the right way. After we can see the second goal, we had 3 or 4 chances, so the reaction is there. Yeah, I mean, they did have a good stretch after the goal. They're pretty shit before the goal, though. I will say, one thing I appreciate about Maresca is, like, he's very even keel all the time. Like, I don't think I've seen him be happy, and I don't think I've seen him be. He's just very flat. He's very level. Like, even when Potter was like, the boys gave everything, by the end, he looked haggard. He looked haggard. And, like, Bamaraska seems like pretty even keel, which I think that's a green flag. Like, if we're talking about my managerial evaluation matrix, the MEM system, he's like he's not very emotional, which is good. I think he's like pretty. He is analytical without being into analytics, if that makes sense. I think he's not a big analytics guy, unfortunately. All right, those are pretty boring quotes. Apparently, his pre-match press conference for this was like 10 minutes as well, which is quite funny. All right, get your last questions in, and then we're going to wrap it up. I might stream after Brighton. I don't know. But otherwise, there'll be a pod next weekend. There'll be a pod this weekend. I'll record it tomorrow night. If you're liking the streams, like, subscribe, share. I think if you like the streams, it boosts it for other people, which is always fun. So, Io Baba Poch's second half of the season is a better comparison. I don't think so. They're playing so differently that I don't really think that's fair. Predict Chelsea's next 5 games. Chelsea's next 5 games. We play Brighton, Villa, Southampton, Leicester, Arsenal. Next 5. I think we're going to draw Brighton. I think we're going to beat Villa. I think we're going to beat Southampton. I think we're going to beat Leicester. And I think we're going to lose to Arsenal. So 1-3-3-0 is my prediction. But I don't think we're going to lose 5-0 to Arsenal like last year. So swings and roundabouts. That's my prediction for the next 5. I think Brighton, I don't know, just fucking kick it over their heads for Jackson to run in behind. What are we doing? Let's see. This game obviously doesn't go in, but the metrics are the metrics, and I'm ideologically aligned to believe the metrics. Anyways, we're gonna cut it all there, my friends. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. There'll be a pod tomorrow. Thank you for the questions as always. We got in a weird way today, but oh well. Yeah. So we'll cut it there. Like, share, subscribe, all those sorts of things. If you have questions you want to talk about on stream, especially if you have something that will take me like time to think about, shoot me a DM on Twitter or Blue Sky, and then I can think about it ahead of time. Like I didn't have to do anything crazy for Bad Rabbit's question, but I did have to think about where I wanted to take the question and lay out my points. So if there's something that you want more thought on, hit me with it. So we'll cut it all there. Enjoy the